Legend of Korra Season 2, Episodes 7 and 8, Beginnings Part 1 and Part 2. To say that these two episodes were like the best thing Legend of Korra has ever had, I honestly think is an understatement because there's so much about this that was like the whole thing really I would consider it to be perfect. It had amazing drama, and honestly, the best thing I could say to really compliment it is that it was kind of like reliving, the last Airbender, but all wrapped up into one series. We got the beginning story of how, uh, I guess the main character of this episode really, Juan, became the Avatar. Initially started off, he was kind of, you know, almost a hoodlum. It kind of made me think of Aladdin, the opening scene they had, and he's running from the brothers who we find out, they're basically the three sons of, you know, the ruler of this town or, entire village really. And this village is sitting on top of a giant lion turtle. And this specific lion turtle gives out the power of fire whenever people from the village need to go out, into the wild to capture food. Because when they go out into the wild, they have to deal with spirits all over the place because spirits attack humans, so humans need to defend themselves, and thus they attack spirits. And in this episode, there's so much done well. Like there was really the one problem with the whole thing being so perfect is that it had nothing to do with anyone from Legend of Korra. All the main character for these two episodes has been dead for nearly 1,000 years. We learn because the ultimate battle basically between good and evil happens every well, not even 1,000, every 10,000 years, I believe. So obviously, that all those people have been dead a very, very long time, and that's kind of the only problem with it is that it was so amazing and it does so much well, and then it's like it kind of has nothing to do with the Legend of Korra characters. It's obviously important to the story, and it helps Korra basically regain her abilities, which I certainly didn't expect to be through, just Juan basically saying how he became, the Avatar. I thought it would be a lot more, in depth with Korra, going through training and stuff like that. But it's fine that it didn't happen that way because what we did get, I believe, is far better than any training she could have possibly had. That just made her more spiritual and her going into the spirit world herself. But I love the entire thing, both episodes. Since it came on kind of as one episode, I'm thinking of it as one, but you know, each part was very well done, and also just how they showed it. It seemed the first part seemed like it actually lasted a lot longer than it did to me, and I think there was really only like one commercial, and then everything else was flat out Avatar, which was great because generally we get a typical 22 minutes or something. And this one, honestly, it seemed like it was almost like 30 straight minutes for the first part. And the second part seemed like it was too, aside from, it seemed like they had one commercial each that was fairly short to me. And, everything else, they just packed it in because they wanted to have it all in these two episodes. And it was very well done. The animation I really love too because, for anyone who did notice, and I think it would be really hard not to, they really, really went deep into, anime style animation. And, obviously Avatar is, it's sort of an American based anime, so it has that style, but you can plainly see how it is, pretty much Americanized. And in this, they really, really go into like true anime style animation. And I really love that, and not just with, the villages and sort of the old backgrounds and things like that, which they do sort of to just make it look like art, really. That's why they do it that way. But just the actual characters themselves, they do have an actual anime style animation, which was really cool. And it kind of went back to, early Avatar because, the animation kind of went up as the seasons went on. But early on, it had sort of, I guess, more of an anime style just because it wasn't so toned up and things like that. But in this, they had it really toned up, but it still has that, cool anime style, which I really loved. And, it changed the way all of the abilities looked. Mostly, I'd, obviously air more than anything because air now, even in the last Airbender, it was really it was more clear. Of course, it was sort of like a force based move, and that's what it looked like. It would be blue, of course, when they would shoot air and stuff, and it looked really cool. And then in this, it would flat out look like clouds. People would be. It was kind of like the air scooter, but they would just flat out be on a cloud, and it sort of made me think of the Nimbus cloud from Dragon Ball Z, just a little bit, but it was like an actual cloud. And when Juan would use airbending, it would shoot out as a cloud, and it wouldn't just be sort of light blue tinted air shooting out really fast. It would be an actual cloud shooting out, and the fire looked really good, and the water did too. And the earthbending was fairly simple. It pretty much looked the same. It was earth coming up and him moving it around. It just had a different style to it because of the animation, but everything about it was really well done. There wasn't actually a lot of comedy now that I think about it. There were, of course, bits and pieces, and that was mostly in the beginning, really. But I think once he kind of decided to befriend the spirits, there was pretty much no comedy that I could really think of. Like, they had like tiny little bits and pieces, but for the most part, I think it was just straight drama and action, which I really loved. I wasn't looking for comedy or anything like that, but the first episode was pretty much where all the comedy was, and even it was only the first half of the first episode that really had the comedy, and then after that it seemed very serious, and it went into the history of the very first Avatar. And for Walking Dead fans, Steven Yeun, who plays Glenn, is Juan, so there you go. But the whole thing was very well done. I love the character Juan. He looked cool too. Like when he got older and stuff. They have like the long hair and the goatee. And in the end, when he's going to the South Pole, he had this whole get up, and it made me think of Prince of Persia like crazy. Like he just looked a lot like the Prince of Persia to me. So a lot of people probably thought that too, because he really does look like him. And I think it's specifically from um, the Two Thrones, I want to say, which is the third one. But he looked a lot like the Prince of Persia to me. But it was really cool. The fight was amazing, and we get the story that he pretty much becomes the Avatar because he learns that he was basically tricked by the evil spirit, and he separated good and evil from their basically eternal battle. And evil began to run rampant across the earth, and it would turn good spirits evil, which would pretty much weaken good, and it would cause chaos to rule for 10,000 years. So when Juan goes across, we see him. They kind of course, give us the little montage where he goes across after getting air. He goes to learn water bending, or basically just get the ability to control water, and then earth. And he trains with the spirit, and of course, I can't think of the good spirit's name. But one of the best parts about it is when they combine together and we actually see the very first Avatar state. And the thing that made it so perfect is that it, once again, it just captured everything that I felt about the last Airbender, because it wasn't the Legend of Korra Avatar state where she can just turn it on at the drop of a hat and take out her enemies. But it did incorporate both elements, because if you notice, he did do like the tornado, and Aang never did that. He would kind of just float, and he would have the ball around him with his spirit floating. So they kind of combined both, and that made it really good to me, because I thought it captures everything from the last Airbender, but they do at least give us that little bit, which they've shown. And that might be why they've shown it so much, because it was going to lead up to this episode. So they were going to have that in there, and it would just be sort of her signature move from the Avatar state mixed in with the original Avatar state, which obviously whenever Aang did it, it was just him kind of being out of control, so it would be that orb. But they incorporated sort of the tornado move, and it was really cool to see that. And it just captured both elements of the last Airbender and the Legend of Korra, and it just put them together perfectly. And the story of Juan growing up and growing old, I thought was really well done. I didn't expect it to end with him actually dying, but it does make sense. He dies, and then it transfers on to the next person, and I thought that was really well done. And then it ends that way, and then Korra basically wakes up and realizes who she is. But the episode was done so well. Like I said, the comedy early on was good, and then it's pretty much just straight drama and action. All the action was really well done. I think I loved it just for the style. We got to see when Juan was first learning how to really master firebending. They had the dragon come in, so he was doing the dance of the dragon like they had in the Last Airbender. And so, once again, it captures a lot from the Last Airbender. And, it was cool just to have that nostalgia factor, but at the same time, it was brand new. And I appreciated it more in this episode than I did, in the Last Airbender, even though that was really cool, especially considering that specific episode was, like Zuko's adventure pretty much with Aang. But, it was the very first person learning to master firebending. So when you really think of it that way, and you don't just say, oh, it looks like The Last Airbender, it actually makes it a lot cooler than just saying, oh, it's just like that episode in The Last Airbender, and it's good nostalgia. It was good for the story itself, and it really made you, appreciate just the character himself, Juan practicing the, firebending, how to master it, and even fighting against his own people when they pretty much came out to attack spirits because he, befriended the spirits and learned that they aren't actually evil. They're just, they're not human, and so humans and spirits fight. And then, by the end of the episode, once Juan does pretty much become the Avatar and he's bonded forever with the spirit, he locks off the portals, and then that's when it really gets back into, the Legend of Korra. It's like, okay, he blocked off both portals. He sent the spirits back to the spirit world, and his plan was to basically try to help humans befriend each other. Everyone needs to live together, just like he was trying to get humans and spirits to live together. And of course, he dies, and he's, on this battlefield. There's like arrows all over the place, and they have like he's like laying up against like the giant earthbender. One of the giant things. I'm trying to remember. It looks like the coin, but it's obviously not a coin. It's like a huge weapon. But that's how their coins look, and that's the shape they always use to kind of represent earthbenders. So he's laying up against one of these giant like stone circles in the ground, and he's basically talking about how he failed to have humans live together in peace. And then the spirit, of course, she says, will be bonded forever through all your lifetimes, which I thought was a really good line too. But him blocking off the portals is what sends us right back into the Legend of Korra. And of course how it ends with Korra going off to basically find a way to stop her uncle from doing whatever it is he's going to do. And my assumption is that his plan is to basically free the evil spirit, because for some reason he thinks he's so amazing he can control it. And like I really think that's what it is, because he can pretty much help the other spirits. So I think he's going to basically release the evil spirit and try to control him, so he can pretty much control the world and shape it into what he wants. But the biggest thing to note, or at least the biggest thing I really noticed, is that him going into the spirit world in the previous episode, it kind of shows pretty much exactly what that looks like, and it's really just a giant yin yang sign. And so the South Pole is open, but the North Pole is not. So the convergence can't, or not convergence, I can't remember exactly what they called it, but it can't exactly happen the way he wants it to, because he needs Korra to pretty much release the North Pole. And that's why, because Juan was the one who closed it so that humans couldn't go into the spirit world. And obviously, in The Last Airbenders, people do, but it's in rare situations, or when they're not physically in the spirit world. It's just their spirit goes into the spirit world. And in this case, what we saw last week, Varric, or not Varric, Unalak, I believe is his name, finally got it. He's in the spirit world, and he walks out, and it's his physical form. So whatever he has planned, it's pretty much to control this evil spirit. And he, of course, as he said, he does need Korra to unlock it. and maybe he'll try to do what Juan did, where Juan basically merged with the spirit, and that's how he became, officially became the Avatar. But he'll try to, you know, control the spirit so that he can pretty much be like an evil Avatar and have all of these cool abilities. And then, if he can't actually control all the elements, I think his plan is to really be able to control all the spirits so that he can, shape the world the way he wants to for whatever evil reason. But he's a bad guy, so that's just what they do, take over stuff and just destroy. But overall, the episode was absolutely amazing. So comment below. Let me know what your favorite part was. Animation, acting, fighting, drama, comedy, whatever it was. Comment below, let me know. And definitely let me know, where do you think the show's going to go now that we realize, we got at least a lot more as to what the plan is. So how do you think things are really going to go now that Korra understands the plan and what she has to do to pretty much be a hero and save everybody? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.